Hi there, and welcome to the Curious Collective podcast, conversations designed for the conscious community to bring awareness to those holistic practices that help us live our best life. So tap into the wisdom and knowledge of our guests to heal, transform, and live as your true soulful self. Hello there, listeners, and welcome. Today with us, we have the awesome Brad Williams, who is coming to us from Victoria, Australia. Welcome, Brad.
Hello, how you going?
It is great to have you on here. So I always start with the question, introduce yourself, please, and tell us what it is you're doing in the world right now.
So I'm Brad. So basically, I'll start off with kind of what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm currently a firefighter, but also run an online personal training business that specifically helps police applicants and serving members with their health and fitness. And basically got to this point from growing up in Darwin, joined the army, got posted back up to Darwin, left the army, joined the police, and then from there joined the fireys, and then I find myself where I am now with a lovely wife and a couple of kids that are sometimes not lovely, but I still love them.
And
But
this
just
is
yeah,
so cool. I
all
love
the
that you've like
normal,
dipped into three of the services here.
yeah.
And so the army first, then the police, and now fireys.
Yep. Yeah. So when I left, or when I was at school still in Darwin, I spoke to someone whose dad was a firefighter up there. I basically said to him, "Oh, I want to be a firefighter." He goes, "Go get some life experience in that first." So my dad and my brother are in the army. So, and I knew kind of academically going down that path. I kind of thought I wanted to go to uni, but I think that was from watching like Van Wilder Party Liaison and those American movies where they just kind of party at university. So I thought that's probably not the best path for me. So yeah, went down the army path, which seemed like it was a great idea. It was an awesome time. My brother was already in and my dad was in, so I kind of understood the process. So yeah, did that for a bit, and then when I got out, wanted to pursue the firefighter side of it, but I understood it was pretty hard to get into, especially down in Victoria. So put in my application for the police at the same time. So yeah, kind of got through the police stuff straight away, and the fires I got knocked back on that first time. So then just kept kind of reapplying while I was in the police and did a few other things in the police. I went to the critical incident response team, did that for 6-7 months before I got into the fireys. Just kept applying for the fireys, and then finally got through.
What a great gateway through. You're like, I'll just wait out here and get my experience up being a copper in Victoria.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
I was extremely lucky, and I think the way they fixed up the application process now, but when I went through, there was like a 3 year. It took like 3 years all up. So we did like the beep test, and 6 months later did another test. So for me, I think that was quite advantageous because I was already in a really good job that I wasn't going to leave unless I got into the fiery. So I think for a lot of people, that 3 year period, they might have got a promotion in their corporate job or whatever, put them in a position where they couldn't leave it. So it probably reduced the amount of people because I think we had like 4,000 applicants for like 30 spots, I
Wow, that's
think. So
nuts.
so yes, I think having that time frame kind of probably culled it down a little bit, which was good. But yeah, just kind of stuck it out with the police, and I was like, if I don't get in, I'm still a cop and enjoying it. So
That's perfect.
yeah,
That's
yep.
perfect. So I'd love to talk more into those particular roles, but before we do, I'd love to hear more about PoliceFit and why it is you're doing that and what you feel is, I'd love you to just talk into a bit of movement for the listeners as well as like why you feel it's important.
Yeah, yep. So for me personally, training's always been a massive part of my life. And actually, I was having a discussion with a friend about why we started training. And it's funny because when you're younger, like throughout your years, the reason why you train obviously changes. But I remember vividly, I think I was in like year 4, and I was on the playground equipment with my best mate at the time, Luke, who had like a luscious undercut. Everyone had an undercut back in the day, and I've always had pretty rubbish hair. And we're on the top of the playground talking to 3 of our female friends. And these girls turned around and said to us, which is kind of harsh now I think about it. They basically said, they're like, "Oh, our perfect guy is Brad's body, but Luke's head." So I was like, all right, well, I know what I've got to work with here. So I basically,
What a memory to get stuck with you.
yeah, from that day on, just started doing push-ups and sit-ups. So obviously when like I was younger and I started training, it was always like, well, every guy trains when they're younger. They just want to look good naked, basically. You know, that's our whole reason for training when we're young males. But then like kind of, I think it played a massive role in my ability to, I think, control my reaction in stressful situations and have that understanding that my fitness will carry me through, especially like being overseas on operations when, you know, you're heavily fatigued and you get into a contact or whatever. You know, having that understanding that I have that ability, that fitness ability, it reduces a lot of that stress and anxiety around the unknowns. And even now, like in the role I'm in now with being a firefighter, like you get to a house fire and it's fully going, like fitness just isn't a thought in my brain at all. Like I never think, well, can I tough this out? Can I do the work for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever needs to be done? You know, so having that really good base level of fitness, you know, has carried me through all those years and all those different jobs I've done. And I think not until like reflecting about it and talking to you about it now, is I never thought about that. It's just always been a standard in my life that I've had. But it definitely does, like I notice now when training applicants, you know, that fitness test is a massive stressor for them going into the academy. And then once they're in the academy, what's the fitness going to be like? But for me, because training's always been a big part of my life, I've kind of negated that side of the stress for it. So yeah, so with training, that's how I kind of got into it. You know, from girls wanting to have my body but Luke's head when I was in year 4 or whatever it was. I vividly remember it.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I'm glad
It
you
was a
shared
turning
it.
point.
I
It was
guess
a
as well,
turning
like
point in
from
my
my
life.
perspective, working with energy is like a physically fit vessel body is going to be able to tolerate more levels of stress and be able to process that out than someone that perhaps isn't looking after their physical body as well.
Yeah. And I think like, and I'll talk about this with clients too, like stress, like whether it's mental stress or physical stress, they get the same response in your body. Like you have good stress and bad stress, obviously, but like you got like your mental stress and your physical stress raises your cortisol levels. Physical training, which is physical stress over time, reduces your cortisol levels. But in the moment, in the time, like that mental stress, whether it's like going to a critical incident or you know being in a job with a high stressful situation, and then you're having to like wrestle an offender or put out a fire or whatever it is, you've got those two stresses now, which are still combining. So the fitter you can be, the less that physical stress is going to be on your body. So your overall stress is going to be less. And I talk to clients about it a lot when you've got a lot going on in your life. Like a lady I've been talking to at the moment, so we won't name her, but she's going through a pretty messy divorce, and we're trying to help her with her training. And I'm like, just with your training, don't think about it at the moment. Like, get some walks in, get some runs in. You've got enough stress, other stress in your life that's going on. We don't want to pile on more physical training stress as well, because at the end of the day, it's reacting the same. You're getting the same stress response. So you just that fatigue and that heightened cortisol, you know, you're just adding. So, you know, you got to be super mindful. And I think now that I'm getting older, you know, I'm not old, I'm 38 next month, but as I'm getting older, I'm more mindful of that stress I'm putting on my body. Whereas
Yeah.
like when you're younger, you know, I was training every day. I'd go out on the weekends in the army, drink till 4 a.m., then wake up after 4 hours sleep, go train again. Like
Oh, what we
it
used
was
to
just,
do to our
yeah,
bodies.
it was just never. Whereas like now, if I drink till 4 a.m., which is never, but I'm like,
Wrecked.
I'm out
Whole
for a
week.
week, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, so with the business side of it, basically, I always had a bit of always enjoyed coaching people and training. And when I was in East Timor, I helped a mate lose a fair bit of weight over there, just like coaching him and you know helping him out around the dinner table. And then so I did my PT courses over in East Timor, and then kind of started training when I got back, and then started the online business about 6 7 years ago. I was chatting to a really good friend of mine, and he said, you know, start the business. So I did, and but originally at the start it was called FPA Fit, so Fire Police Army.
Yeah.
But then it kind of merged into what is now PoliceFit, because I kind of realized that the people I was training were police officers, the people I enjoyed training were police officers and applicants. So that kind of it kind of just merged into that. And so yeah, basically we're just training police applicants and officers, and it's great because it's good to see that, you know, the people, because we've had the businesses been around for so long now, we kind of like see those people come in and we train them to get into the job. And then they kind of like when they go through the academy, they might drop off because they're doing training there. But I always talk to people about, you know, having your habits in place. And that first 12 months is the most stressful part of being a cop, because you just started shift work. Maybe you've never done shift work before. You're just running around like a headless chook trying to work out what you can and can't do legally. You know, it's a very stressful part of your life. So I really try and impress on people the importance of having that structure and that routine around your training pre that 12 months. Because what we're finding is like people will come to us, do the training to get in, then during the academy they'll drop off because they're doing academy training.
Yeah.
But then kind of get caught up in that first 12 months, and then like 12 months later they're reaching back out again going, hey, I did what you told me not to do, and you know, I've put on a lot of weight,
Yeah.
and it's just we were talking about like with the movement, it's just so important to just continually stay moving. Like your training's not always going to look the same throughout the year, and nor should it. So for myself, if I know I'm going through a pretty stressful period, so like not last month, I think the month before, just had a lot of stuff going on, like in personal life, external factors with the business. So there was a lot of stress being put on me. So then for me, my training looks completely different. I'm still training because I understand the benefits around, you know, continual training and movement and having that, you know, that healthy mindset and that healthy body. But my training just looked completely different. The
And that was
intensity as
okay.
well.
Like there wasn't
Yeah,
any,
yeah.
self-sabotage around that, or in a dialogue. It's like, that's okay.
Yeah, and it's just understanding. I think it's as I've gotten older, as we spoke about before, like my training, I'm still training just as hard as I did when I was 18, but my recovery is completely different. It looks completely different. And that's probably my main focus around my training now, is that recovery piece, and what am I doing to help that? And I understand better now, like those external factors when I am feeling a bit stressed, a bit overwhelmed, then what does my training look like when I'm feeling that way? Because
Yeah, I
it's
love that.
like at the moment, the last 2-3 weeks, I've just been crushing it. Everything's good, family life's good, business is good, work's been great. So like my training's been great. I've been able to push harder because everything else in my life is just going along nicely. There's no other stresses. So the only stress I'm putting on myself at the moment is through training. Whereas like if, you know, and I always bring it back to had a couple of years ago, we just had a really bad spate of deaths at work. Well, not in the workplace, but just going to bodies and that. And like it was like every day for I think 12 or 14 shifts.
Yeah,
And it
wow.
wasn't, none of them were particularly too bad, but it was that accumulation. And it was by the end of that, for that period, I was just cooked. I didn't really understand that it was that constant stress from work. And then I didn't pick up early enough, so I was loading training on top of that. And so I got to the end of that period, and I was just mentally and physically cooked. And whereas now, because I'm a lot more understanding of that, I understand. Okay, I went to a bad job. I understand how that's going to, even though I feel okay, but you're raising your cortisol levels. You've gone to a really stressful situation. You know, it's adding that stress on top of you. So I understand, you know, how's my movement going to look like? How am I going to work around this with my training?
And I'm hearing like, it's that self-awareness piece, is like listening to your body, understanding how you're feeling, and not just going, well, this is what I do every single day, so this is what I need to do every day. It's like, okay, this is what I like to do every day, but how am I going to adjust how I'm feeling right now into this structure?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And like, I love lifting weights. It's what I've always done ever since like year 5 and on the on the playground equipment.
Yeah. Oh, well, I
But
drank the Kool-Aid for a few years, and was a CrossFit junkie, and went like 6 days a week, loved it,
yeah,
and it was my life. So there was that period now. But if I was to try and do that now in the in the part of my life that I'm in, I'm like, no, my body would just say no, 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 because I
Yeah,
think where I'm at now is more like the, the resistance work, but maybe more reps and,
yeah,
more stretching, more fascia work, more movement, more yoga, those sorts of things to the where I'm at now. So I think it is about listening to your body and the environment that you're putting yourself in as well.
yeah, absolutely. And you can like, and you can still train hard, and that as you get older, but it might reduce the amount of days you're training hard, or you might need to increase your recovery you're doing. Because for a lot of people, like when I talk to them, especially like serving members, for applicants, it's funny because it's so they each bring their own challenges, which I love. But for applicants coming through the process, 9 times out of 10, they're like younger. It's funny because like the younger applicants are always like, I don't have time to train. They're like live at home, work part-time. And then you got like the
No
mum who
kids.
the mum who's like finished having her kids. They're a little bit older now. They've still got heaps of commitments, but they're like, I can train 6 days a week. What do you need
Yeah.
from me? Like it's
Yeah.
that time management, I think. But
Interesting.
for that, like for those younger people coming through, when they struggle with their training, they struggle with their recovery, a lot of it is that, they're on their phones late at night. So they're not understanding the impact that's having on
Mm.
them. And I tell everyone, I'm like, just delete social media off your phone. Just
Yep.
do it for like 2, 3 weeks, whatever you need to do, and just track how you're feeling mentally, how much energy you got throughout the day, because it's so draining. And everything on there is like, I just finished reading a book recently, Dopamine Detox, and,
Yeah.
and it's the best book ever. And like everything on there is just to keep you on the phone, on the phone,
It's
on the
really
phone.
insightful, that book.
Yeah, which is it's great marketing. Like they do it so incredibly well. I wish I could run my website like that.
I've got this quote I say to people like, stop the scroll. Why are we just
Yeah.
mindlessly
Yep.
scrolling to fill time? Like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. And I find like so like my and in saying that, like I love Facebook because that's where I run my business from basically.
Mm,
But I don't have Facebook on my phone. So when I do go and do the work stuff, it's on the computer. It's really deliberate
yeah.
time on there. I get the work done and then I'm off and I'm away from it.
Yeah.
So I find like people, especially that younger generation coming through, social media is such a massive part of their life. So for them to take it off their phone, it's a massive thing. So
Mm,
just things like dimming the light on their phone or putting on the blue light settings after 7 p.m.
yeah.
That always helps.
That
Um,
structured sleep piece as well, like
yeah,
actually acknowledging that my body does need this certain period of time to perhaps regenerate and replenish
yep,
itself.
yeah,
Especially if they're
absolutely.
doing the exercise, they need that time for their body to recover.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was in the dopamine detox one I was reading. And they talk about like so say you just go 8 hours, right? Say your body needs 8 hours. People sleep in on the weekends because they're trying to catch up. And I never really thought about that too much when, like, say if I had a bad night at work or whatever, I got 5 hours sleep, and the next night I have like a good sleep, I get 9 hours. In my head, I was always like, I've caught up.
Mm,
But realistically, I'm still like 2, 3 hours in the red because I haven't got
yeah.
that average of 8 hours. And since I've been really focusing on trying to have an average of 8 hours, so like on Sunday I had 8.5 hours, and then Monday I had 7.5 hours, so average that's 8. Then
Mm,
last night I had 6.5 hours because I got up early this morning. So I know now today I need to try and pick up an hour today, or tonight I need to go to bed an hour early. So I always try to pick that up within 24, 48 hour period.
yeah.
Otherwise, you're just kind of kicking the can down the road, and you're never kind of fully recovering, which
What
is
a
going to
great
have
analogy.
another impact on your training, or what you're trying to achieve, and then that stress, that response to stressful situations, you're fatigued
Yeah.
already, so you're going to have a bigger reaction, which then it's just that snowball effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, since I've really dialed in on my sleep, and just making it like a real priority, everything else has just gone so much better.
When you first went into police, being the first job that was actually shift working, how did you find that transition from, say, 7:30 to 4 or whatever you were doing into the shift work?
I, I think because at the time I didn't have kids, it was really
Mm,
easy.
mm,
So like for me, and with obviously, like with the Defence Force, like you go out bush and you do that sleep deprivation, or so you're used to working tired or fatigued.
yeah.
But it was it was different because I didn't have kids. So like if I had a bad night at work or I got to bed late or whatever, I could do
Sleep
whatever I
all
needed to do
day.
during the day and just go to sleep. Like there
Yep.
was no impact on anyone. Whereas I find now more so for for like at work now, if we have a bad night at work and we have a fire or whatever, I don't get any sleep. I know straight away, okay, what am I doing tomorrow? What's my training going to look like? What do I need to do to recover? So straight away, I'm on that recovery piece. I'm not like, oh, I'll just push through or anything like that.
Yeah.
Straight away, I think about, okay, how's this going to impact my plans that I had for tomorrow? And then what do I need to do to get back on top so that I can come into work tonight or I can pick the kids up from school and still be in that good state. So for me, like I try and train like twice a day, whether it's jiu-jitsu and then resistance training or like cardio and resistance. But straight away, if I have a bad night, the next day I'll know, okay, I'll either do no training or I'll just do jiu-jitsu or whatever it is. But it's just straight away trying to pick that up within like a 24-hour period and try and fix it rather than going, oh, no, I know I've got nothing on Saturday so I can sleep in, because with kids, that's not an option. Like, you don't get to choose if you sleep in. If they want you to get up, you're up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of, understanding that piece. And I think,
again, awareness, self-awareness. Yeah.
And with people too, like with that shift work, I think people that have never done it before, and then they go into like doing a morning, an arvo, whatever it is. Because I know with Vic Pol, it was like a 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. By the time you finish, knock off, get out of the station, maybe drive home, you're looking at like 11:30, quarter to 12 at the earliest. So then you got like that wind down period before you can get to bed. If your bedtime routine isn't already in play, like if you don't have a really structured routine, it's just going to get thrown out.
Yeah.
So you like get home and then people think winding down is being on their phone when it's not. Don't get me wrong, like I've got a really bad habit and I understand it, that I'll go to bed and I won't reply to messages. So I've still got Messenger on my phone for the business, but I'll quickly scan it. So I'll go, okay, I know I need to get up and reply to these messages straight away.
Yeah.
But I think for me, that's about going, okay, I can shut down now because I know what I need to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm not on there just scrolling, looking at funny
That's
videos.
really great advice. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just having that. So I need to, if I can have a plan for the next day, if I know like today I had a big day, I've got a big day on today. So I literally lay out my day from 5 a.m. when I got up, to going to training, to coming home, what time I'm going to eat my eggs on toast, what time I'm going to drop the kids off, this podcast, then I know exactly what I'm doing afterwards, exactly the times I'm doing it. And if I can lay all that out, I'll just write it down on my phone. Then I can go to sleep knowing, okay, tomorrow's planned.
Yeah,
I don't need to lay in bed worrying about what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Most of my
Gets you out
days,
of your head and you can actually concentrate on the sleep part.
yeah. So I think for people like going into shift work, to bring it back to that, it's that making sure you have like a good nighttime routine, whether you're doing that nighttime routine at 12 o'clock when you get home, or you're doing that nighttime routine at 9 p.m. when you go to bed, whatever it looks like for you, just make sure you stick to that. So for me, I think I did like a bit of a retreat. I think it was about maybe 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. Through the gym I was trained at through Matty Prince, who's one of like my first mentors. Basically, I spoke to you about this on the phone. We started doing we're doing meditation stuff, and I'd never done it before. And every time we did it, like it was big days, a 4-day weekend. It was really big days, like 12, 14-hour days of like learning, training. And every time we'd lay down and do like a meditation session and reflect, I'd fall asleep straight away. Like I just go to sleep and I'd wake up because I snore. And so from that, we like learn a lot of things in that course, but I found like the body scan meditations. And when I tell boys at work about it, you go, and you would have had this reaction 100 times as well. You go, oh, have you ever tried meditating? And I tell clients about it as well. Have you ever tried meditating? They're like, no. Like whenever someone says meditate, they think of like the hippie,
Buddha.
like self-love, like that kind of like positive affirmations and that kind of stuff, which it is as well. But there's different types.
So many types. Yeah.
But it's like straight away when people think of it, they go to that.
And they say, oh, I can't meditate. Nah. And they totally pay it off straight away.
Yeah. So I listen to body scan meditations, and I've got the boys at work onto it as well.
Yes.
And it's so good. Like you know how it works. So it goes through your body, all relaxing and that. I literally get to so it starts on the head, goes down. I get to my shoulders. I've never done my legs ever because I'm always asleep. So like when I know if I'm struggling, if I know I'm going to struggle to get sleep, I've got a lot on my mind, I'll write down everything I need to do and then put on a body scan meditation and then I'm out. So I know that works for me and my nighttime routine. So it's about finding what works for you, and scrolling on Facebook doesn't work. Just let everyone know.
No, and if you think it does, it actually doesn't.
No, yeah.
There is actually so much I want to talk to you about, but there's one thing I want to bring up before we part ways, and that is the, oh, how are you piece? Because we chatted about this on the phone the other day, and I've just told so many people since then, is like, say when you're with the police and you just had a massive day, perhaps been to a couple of critical incidents, and then you're going home from shift and you got to stop to fill up the car, put a bit of fuel in, and then you go in and the service station attendant, she's like, oh, how's your day been?
Yeah. So,
Talk into that
yeah.
one for me.
Yeah, so we were talking on the phone the other day, and I was just saying, we are just talking about like it actually, because it kind of it was actually a part of this job we went to. It was a pretty messy fatal, and it kind of brought to my attention, because I remember after it, the sergeant was talking in a group, and he kind of said, he goes, "Oh, Brad, you're all right, aren't you? You're in the army and stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all good," but not because I was in the army, but I was fine about it. But it kind of brought upon that realization of it's so different. Like in the Defence Force, you deploy overseas, there's that separation. You've gone overseas in deployment, stuff's happened over there, and then you kind of come home, there's that immediate separation. Whereas with being an emergency services worker at home, like you're kind of like, and that job went to that really, really bad fatal. And on the way home, I've stopped in and filled up the car, and the shop attendant's like, "Oh, how's your day been?" I'm like, "Yeah, good, good. Yourself?" She's like, "Yeah, good." And I remember sitting in the car afterwards thinking, I wonder if I just unloaded on it and just told her what I saw like 5 minutes ago, how she would react. But it kind of I'm extremely lucky. Like my partner's in the job, so if I need to debrief at home, I can. So kind of brought to that realization for me that it's kind of like you go to these things, you go to these jobs, and then 20 minutes later you're sitting at home having dinner with your family. So it is really that quick. I've become really good at quickly processing something, but then also understanding if it's hanging around. So just having that I think that understanding of when you're not feeling okay, or when something's not feeling right. And I had it, and I was lucky, because I've always been quite conscious of that, as far as like how I'm feeling. And I had an incident which involved a mum and a couple of kids, and the kids were the same age as my kids at the time. And I knew it was a horrible job when I was there, but it wasn't until afterwards, and I was like, just started breaking down crying like days later. And the wife saw me one day crying. She's like, "You're right." I'm like, "No, not really." Like, and I said, "I need to chat to someone," because we just went on holiday straight away, basically. I was like, "I need to chat to someone when we get home." She's like, "Yep, no dramas." So, but I understood straight away, like, that was I processed it at the time, but then later on I understood it was still there, and I was like, straight away,
the body.
yeah, I was like, straight away, just go chat to someone. But I was lucky in saying that too, that I'd already seen a psychologist previously for something unrelated to that, so it was easy to make that second phone call. And I was talking to a client, it was about 2 years ago. She went to a really serious critical incident. She's kind of like, I don't know how I'm feeling. And I'm like, "Go chat to someone, mate." I'm like, the hardest phone call you'll make is that first one. And I remember making the first time I phoned a psychologist, my heart was racing. I was like, oh, it was like back in the day when you'd ring a girl and you'd hope her dad wouldn't answer the phone. It was that same kind of like anxiety, nervousness. But yeah, once you kind of do it and rip that band-aid off, and if you do it earlier, I think also, or kind of start these processes earlier, then when you do go to something that's more severe, and you definitely 100% need that help, like straight away, you're not going to push it, you're not going to put it away, you're not going to kick the can down the road and just think,
it's not so bad.
Yeah, you're like, "Yeah, okay, I'll just do it," and I'll just you go do it. So yeah, I think it's yeah, just that self-awareness piece, I think. And like we spoke on the phone, like I track everything. I'm a big numbers guy, and so I got like a spreadsheet, and I track Like, and I always revert back to this. So one of those things when people look at like tracking things, it's not as important to track it when everything's going right. Everyone thinks it's not so important to track it when everything's going right. It's when things are going bad, you need to track it. But it's when things are going right, you need to track it. So when things start to go bad, you can look back and see, okay, what's
Sort of point
changed?
of reference.
Yeah. And so like for me, I track my training, my jiu-jitsu, my mobility. So all those things work into my fitness. And then like I also track, I send my wife an appreciation message every day because that's her love language.
Yeah, me
And then
too.
I do like something to help her around the house every day because acts of service and words of affirmation are her love language. So
Oh,
I
we're so
track those.
similar.
Yeah. I think most females and guys are the
Mm.
same. Like, and then yeah, and also I track like we do a date night. I also this one's probably a bit controversial. I actually track how often we're intimate. Because and the reason for that is it's not so I can be like, nah, you're getting a rubbish Christmas present this year because we didn't have much sex. It's more so it's more so I know in myself, like I know I'm starting to feel a bit shit. Like I'm not feeling mentally, I'm not feeling great. And I can look at it and go like, okay, I can look at my sheet because I've been doing this for like 6 years. It's in a spreadsheet, so all the data's there. I can look at it and I go, okay, what's going on in my training? Oh, my training's been fine. How's my nutrition? That's been good. Have I been helping Loz out around the house? Yep, I have. Have I been doing my self development? Yep, I have. And then I'm like, have we been intimate? Oh no, she's been on. If it's a no, I can look at it and go, okay, why I'm feeling a bit, I'm not getting that physical touch, which is my love language. I'm not getting that, or why am I not getting that? Okay, she's been on night shift for a week. I'm like, okay, cool. So then I can understand and process that.
Yeah.
Go, I'm not feeling so great because of that, but there's a reason for that. And then I know once she's off night shift, we're not, ships passing in the night kind of thing, we
Yeah.
can get back on track. Or I can look at that and be like, okay, I'm not feeling great. Now I can look at my training and be like, okay, I've missed 4 training sessions. Why did I miss 4 training sessions? And then just that tracking, that accountability that I can, when I'm not feeling great, I can quickly look at it and go, okay, why am I not feeling great? Where does that fit in my life and what I'm trying to achieve? And then I can look at fixing that. Whereas if I don't have that, I'm kind of kicking through, not feeling great, but then not understanding why I'm not feeling great. So I think it's important just to have, for me, it's that accountability, that tracking on the spreadsheet. But I think for people, I think it's super important just to like, it doesn't need to be a big thing. Like I love numbers, I love tracking things. But just kind of understanding like when you wake up, how am I feeling today? And a dead giveaway if you have kids, like if you lose it at your kids for something minor, you can take a step back and be like, okay, I'm not getting angry at that. What am I getting angry for? And there's generally something that leads up to it. And just having that self-awareness to be like, okay, maybe it's because I did go to a shit job at work and then I got bad sleep and then now that's a flow on.
Yeah.
But it's being able to just backtrack from where you are at the moment. And we do it with our kids. Like if our daughter comes home and loses it over something little, at the time I won't be like, oh, what happened today? But I'll let it be. And then later on I'll chat to him. Okay,
Yeah.
how was school today? Oh, it was shit. Okay,
Yeah.
why was it rubbish? And so she'll tell me. And so that'll give me an idea of why that incident occurred later on in the day, just like backtracking throughout the day and finding,
I love
what.
that you do that too, because it's also teaching your beautiful children self-awareness, because you're like modeling it to them by showing them that framework. And there's been a common thread throughout this whole podcast of this self-awareness piece, being the master of your own life by having this framework around it, accountability for sleep and how much you're moving. And I think that you've dropped lots of beautiful golden nuggets throughout. So thank you so much for that and so much for your time. There's so much more that I want to talk to you about, but we will have to wrap it up at that point. But perhaps we can have you back on at some stage to talk more into, I would love to talk more into the jiu-jitsu piece as well, but also a bit more about life in that first responder space as well. But for today, thank you so much. Is there any parting words that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, just like if you are struggling to start training or change your nutrition, don't don't think you have to do everything at once. Just put some time aside each day, where it's 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and just go for a walk. And then over time, once you've got that time set aside, then you can start building those habits on top of that resistance training or that higher intensity cardio work. But it's just about just making sure that time's allocated each day to kind of look after yourself and be able to look after yourself so you can look after everyone else in your life. But yeah, just get started, and don't overthink it. Just get some
Yeah.
more movement and eat some more greens, basically.
Yes, I love that. I'm going to take on your advice. Thank you so much, Brad, for your time and all the wisdom that you've left here with our listeners. And we'll see you on here again at some other stage.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Katie out.